again, it's Matthew here from Matthew North Music, and thank you for watching my channel. I hope you find what I do interesting, and if you do, please think about hitting the subscribe button, and you can then find out when my next video comes out. All this stuff really helps the channel to grow, as does liking my posts and sharing on social media. Now, I'm outside today, and as you can see, I'm by the shed, and the shed has just been painted. You have to do it every year to keep it fit and healthy, and I did that earlier in the week, and it's a bit dull today, and you might be able to hear some noise in the background, and if you can, it's the Bryan Adams concert that's going on in town today. Anyway, I thought I'd do a quick video just to show you some of the projects that are going to be coming up in the next few months on the channel, because I haven't done that much electronic stuff this year and I need to kind of get back at it. So I just thought you might be interested in seeing what's there. And probably the next video, technically speaking, is going to be about this. Now, probably my most popular video I've ever done on YouTube, other than the one about the little keyboard, was the one I did about a Marshall Valstay 80. Which I did, must be about four or 5 years ago now. Actually, probably not quite that long ago, maybe 4 years ago. And I recently acquired this. Now, the reason I bought this is I actually want an amp for doing gigs when I play with a blues band. And what I've been using has been a 2x12 cabinet and a 50-watt head, either my JTM 45 or the one I built. And I wanted to give this a go, and my plan is this: I'm gonna look over this, check over this, make sure it all works, and then I'm gonna do something with the speaker to see if this can actually be improved upon and to be used as a gigging amplifier. This is something that really needs no introduction. It's one of the most ubiquitous things that has been around since round about 2011, 2012. And it's one of these Cheap and Nasty suitcase record players. Now, this one's branded as Bush, some are branded as Akai, but the most common ones are branded as Crosley. And it's a very, very cheaply made deck. It's got this very cheap platter. The spindle doesn't turn, only the platter turns, so you've got friction against the record, against the spindle. I think this was based on a BSR deck from the 80s, I think. What have we got here? We've got a little centre spider thing in there for playing 45s. But what I'm going to do is, I picked this up, and I picked up another one I'm going to show you in a minute from a junk shop. And I'm going to see if they work, and if they don't work, I'll try and fix them. But then I'm going to see if there's anything we can do to make them slightly better. I'm not holding out much hope on it, but it could be a bit of a fun. And as I said, I picked this up from a junk shop. It only cost me £5, so even if it ends up being completely hopeless, well, I've not exactly lost a lot. But when I bought this one, there was another one with it as well, which is slightly more interesting. And the reason it's slightly more interesting is due to its branding. And you can see here it's called the Third Man Mini Record Player. So this was made by, I don't know who made this at source, but it's going to be made in China somewhere, but this was branded for Third Man Records, which, if you don't know, is the record label owned by Jack White, he of White Stripes, Raconteurs and various other things. And I think this came out maybe 8, 9, 10 years ago, and it was kind of designed as like an introductory record player. They branded it as Manny. And I think you could buy this in a box with a couple of like children's records or something as well. Little bit different to the other sort of suitcase players in so much as it's a much bigger case. If we compare it to the little Bush one there, it's a lot bigger. And if I turn it round, it's actually got a battery compartment. So this thing actually runs on batteries rather than a mains power supply, which the Crosleys use. I think some Crosleys and these things do actually run on batteries as well, but said it's all branded Third Man, which is kind of what attracted me to it. And if we have a look inside, it's got a nice little clip-up lid. It's slightly bigger, but again, even though it's got this nice little slip mat, it's effectively the same kind of cheapo mechanism on here, although it feels a little bit better, but I think in essence it's going to be the same thing. and it's going to have these really tiny speakers on the front. So again, I don't know if this works or not. It might do, it might not, but whatever it is, we're going to take it apart. We'll have a look at it, see what we can do with it, and see if it can be used for something, you know, a bit more fun than just being left in a junk shop. So yeah, that's that, the Third Man record player. So I'll probably do both of these in the same video, so you'll get an idea of what we're going to do with these. The next thing then is what's inside this bag. Well, this bag's made up of an old pair of jeans, I think. Now, I went to get this couple of weeks ago, just before I went away to Liverpool, and before I went to pick this up, I popped into a Sainsbury's shop to get a sandwich because I had a bit of time to kill. And between me leaving the supermarket and me getting to my car, my wallet had disappeared. Now, I don't know if I dropped it or if I was pickpocketed. I think possibly the latter. But anyway, it made an interesting time going to Liverpool for my trip, which we still managed to do. But anyway, about a week later, once I got some bank cards and things, I was able to finally go over and collect this. And what's inside? Well, I'm going to open it up from the back, and some of you might have an inkling what this might be made by, who this might be made by, because, you know, it's got like this sort of amp Tolexy type stuff on, and it's got nice solid corner pieces, and this might look like a miniature version of something I featured on the channel before, and you'd be half right, because this is actually a piece of equipment made by GP Electronics. You can probably see the logo just there. Now, what exactly is this? Well, it's a parametric equalizer, so it has 5 bands of EQ, and you can adjust the frequency here, and you adjust the level here. It's got an input and an output, and there's another jack there. I'm not sure what that's for. Possibly that's for a bypass foot switch, or it may be just for an on-off or something. And then you've got a power switch here. Now, this was a one-off piece of equipment. They only made one of these, and I managed to acquire this off its owner, who'd used it for bass guitar for many, many years. And I'm really chuffed to get hold of it, because as I said, you know, the thing with Jerry's equipment was they had products that they did manufacture that was kind of like a standard product, although they could modify it if you wanted it. But this is completely a one-off. So that's going to be a fun thing to take a look at. Now, a friend of mine called me the other day, and she was going through her attic in her family home, and she found some bits and bobs up there that she thought I might like. And I said, yes, please, certainly. And so I got a few other little goodies here that I've recently acquired. Now, if you look at this box here, let me get it right in the camera. It's a very nice little radio spares components box, and it's got a few little components inside. And this is a real step back in time of how we used to get components in the old days. So we've got like a little bit tag strip there. But this is what I find fascinating. Have a look at these resistors here. So these are 222K half-watt resistors, but they're sold on this piece of cardboard, this little thin piece of card. So, you know, there'll be someone at Radio Spares picking the components and putting them onto cards to be sold, which I just think is fantastic. And there's another one here. This is it says it's a 4.7K resistor, again half watt, but I love the fact it's got this Radio Spares branding on it. I just think it just looks really cool. And I think this is some capacitors here. So 250 volt, 2 microfarad capacitors, again mounted onto a piece of card here. And you know, I just think these things, you know, you don't see many things like this around anymore, because this stuff's either been used or it's been lost or whatever. But to find it in, like, you know, immaculate condition, I think is really, really good. And there's another component here. Now, I don't know if this is some sort of light or some sort of diode or something. It's obviously got a cathode and an anode on it, so I'm guessing some sort of light. But that was in the box as well, as was a nice little little radio knob, which I don't think has ever been used. This is probably, again, new old stock, but you know, I like stuff like this, and it doesn't take up much room, and so that'll go on. I've got a little shelf where I like to keep odd quirky things, so they'll go on display in there. Now also in this collection is this August 1970 copy of Practical Electronics. Now I love old electronics magazines. I particularly like looking at things like the, you know, the adverts in the back where they have different things for sale. There's things like intercoms there, hi-fi equipment. This is quite nice. This is called Mr. Bassman, a kit to build a set of bass pedals, you know, which is, you know, if they made those now, I'd probably have bought a set of them by now. But there's one circuit in here. They've got these like circuits for beginners, and here they've got a circuit to build a metronome, which is basically a couple of transistors, one resistor, I think, a capacitor, and a pot, and a speaker and a battery, and that's it. So that's literally probably the most simplest projects you could ever make. So I'll probably build that. I mean, it's the component, the two transistors now are obsolete, but I'm sure I could bung in any old NPN and PNP and it'll probably work. So that'll be a bit of fun at some point in the future. But yeah, I don't have many old magazines like this, although a lot of them you can look at online as sort of PDFs and things. But yeah, I think that's a really, really fun thing. Anyway, to the main event from the collection that I got the other day, and it's one of these. A Sinclair Spectrum. Now, I'm guessing this is probably a 48K. I mean, it may be a 16K. I'm not sure. It doesn't really say. But yeah, it's a Sinclair Spectrum, and we've got the original Sinclair power supply. Now, a lot of people don't like using these, and they just buy brand new ones. But I kind of think, well, I've got valve amplifiers made in the 60s that use very high voltages, and those transformers work fine. So I'm just going to give this a test. I could always stick it on the PAT tester as well, just to make sure. But I think that'll probably work, so I will use this with the computer. Now, along with it, there was a shoebox cassette deck, which is this Pi Audio one. Again, this is probably from the same era, and you know, nice little thing. All the switches seem to work. It's even got record on it, so I'm sure I can get that up and running, which will be handy to go with this or anything else I got, really, because they're getting quite hard to find good shoebox cassette decks now, because so many people are buying them up for using on retro computers. And also, I think if you can't get a really old Walkman, then some people like these things because there's a bit of a sort of retro sort of vintage feel about this. I don't know if it's still got batteries inside it. If it has, they would have leaked and perished. But no, it's clean as a whistle. So yeah, that's really good. So we've got our Spectrum and we've got our shoebox cassette recorder to go with it. I will probably, and I know lots of other channels have done this, but I will probably do a few upgrades to this. And I also have, which another friend of mine from Plymouth gave me, I've also got a ZX81, which I'll probably do a couple of videos where I work on both of them, because the ZX81 I'm going to do some mods to as well. But so this is my first Spectrum. I've never owned a Spectrum before, so that's quite exciting. But even more exciting in some ways is this. Now, this is a printer for the Spectrum, and it's also for the ZX81 called an Alphacom 32 line printer. And I've literally never seen one of these before. But like so many of the things to do with 80s 8-bit computers, so many other companies built stuff to go with them. But we're going to take this out of the box, and I've literally not opened this at all since I got it a couple of days ago. So just open it up and we'll see what we've got. So I think this is all the time. I'll turn it up that way because I think the lid's probably this way. So if we lift this up, and oh my gosh, there's our printer. So we've got our printer, and it has a full roll of paper in it. Now I'm guessing this is some kind of thermal imaging paper. So yeah, I mean, if this works, then we should be able to print on it. And there's a piece of paper here where, yeah, there's test print on it. So it was used for a test, although I can't see that they actually printed very much on here, because there's you know, a full roll of paper. Now there's a cable in here. I don't know what this is for, but it goes to, it's like a jack plug. So what's this going to? Right, so there's a jack plug on here. So I'm wondering if that may have to go in the, maybe the audio output. Maybe, I don't know. But then there's also this connector here. Now this is the connector that goes on the back of the Spectrum or the back of the ZX81. And so, yeah, it just sort of slots in here. There's a little groove in there, so you plug that in like that. And yeah, it goes in like that. Although it's a little bit stiff, so it's got these funny springs on here as well. I think they need straightening out. But interestingly, it's got like a pass-through on it, so you can then plug in like your RAM pack or micro drive or whatever else you had to go with it. So yeah, this is oh, I see what it is. So the jack plug is actually for the power supply, because the power supply's got a jack socket here. So yeah, you just plug that in and then you've got your power. And so I think, I mean, this looks like a normal sort of Spectrum power supply, but it's quite a high voltage. It throws out 26 volts at 1 amp. Now, presumably it needs a higher voltage because, you know, it's thermal heating, so it's probably got heaters in it. Now, is this the original receipt? Yes, it is. So 91 alpha, I'm guessing, but I could be wrong, that it's the price, it's for the paper, and it costs £20, which is, you know, quite a lot of money. Anyhow, catch me for the next video, which will be in the shed, and yeah, see you on the next one.